Hey, everybody. This is Chris Day, the co-founder of the Global Cannabis Network Collective. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of GCNC Worldview. The podcast this week, we're delving into really communications platforms and ways in which we can create connectivity both across countries and around the world for people that are engaged in the cannabis industry and conversations about cannabis. So with us today is the CEO and founder of CanMar, Khairah. Thank you so much for joining us. How's Vancouver, Canada today?
Hey Chris, nice to see you. Well, Canada is a little gloomy. I live in Vancouver, so we are going to get some snowfall. I believe with all the climate change, Toronto has sent all the snow out here, so I see orange skies outside today. So it's
all
good.
Right. Well, last time I saw you, we were in Las Vegas, Nevada, and at MJ BizCon. So this is take 2 on the podcast. We had some technical difficulties with the first one, and I wanted to make sure we had you on. So thanks for coming around again in the virtual platform here to talk about CanMar. You know, as I opened with, there's a lot of ways in which people are communicating these days about cannabis, trying to get the word out about products, just asking questions. And a lot of times it's challenging to make that happen. You know, we meet at trade shows and other places around the world, but maybe in talking about CanMar and what it is, if you might also tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start it, maybe that would be a great way to kick off the conversation.
Absolutely. Chris, I have been in recruitment or talent acquisition for a very, very long time. I started another company called Destination One Consulting. We used to hire generalist, executive recruitment is what we would do in different industries. So in about 2017, one of my very dear friends got a license to produce cannabis. I get a call at about 11:30 at night. Hey, can you find me a financial controller? I was like, absolutely, but it's 11:30 at night. How about we speak tomorrow? So fast forward, we found him a financial controller, and leaving that on a side, in about a week, I got another call saying, can you hire 60 more people? I'm like, excuse me? What do you mean? He's like, I need a CEO, CSO, like the whole C-suite and the whole downline and so on and so forth. I'm like, I cannot do this under the other generalist company that I've been operating, but let me see if we can incorporate a new company. And that was really the start of CanMar. And then I really started looking into the cannabis industry, and I thought that, okay, there are going to be millions of jobs. These never existed before. Once legalization happens in Canada, that means people are going to have an option to opt into a new industry. So that was very exciting for me. So while we were recruiting for this company, the word of mouth really spread, and another 30 companies, they started calling us left, right, and center. And there it was. We were already into recruitment, but now we were recruiting for the cannabis industry. So it was a natural process for us.
Yeah, and CanMar, the current vision is sort of much more than the recruiting space. It's really about communications and connectivity, if I'm interpreting it right.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So with CanMar's new platform, again, because we were in recruitment, that was our bread and butter. And COVID, of course, threw a big curveball, and nobody was hiring, and other challenges that came with the recruitment. Started looking into other ways, or really started looking deeper into the industry, figuring out, okay, what's missing. And after about 4 or 5 months of a lot of discussions, a lot of research, so major gaps that existed in the market. The information was quite fragmented. Where I saw the opportunity that, okay, why, and we look at the new countries that are legalizing, Thailand and Germany taking, the lead in Europe and so on and so forth. So I started asking myself the question, okay, why is the industry so scattered? Why is the information so scattered? How can I bring them? Is there a way to bring everybody to one place? Because technology is great these days. You're in Mexico, I'm sitting in Canada, and we're talking like as if you're in the other room, right?
Yes.
That's what technology does. So that was the inspiration and really the curiosity to find the solution for that problem. I'm not saying that we have 100% solution, but at least we made the effort. We built a beta version of our minimum viable product where people come, you make your profile, come, let's talk, let's bring the world closer, because this is what I love about the cannabis industry is the community feeling. So, long story short, the goal is to build a platform where people can freely talk, no censorship, come advertise. So, there's so much more that we have up our sleeves that's going to come in the 2.0.
That's great. Yeah, it was interesting to me. I mean, much of what is our business today at the Global Cannabis Network Collective, and then through Gateway Proven Strategies as well, was really born out of that change dynamic that happened during the pandemic. I think it is reflective, and this is just sort of a sidebar observation, but everybody I talked to in the cannabis industry, it was an opportunity to either adapt and innovate to survive, or to sit and feel crushed. And it created a lot, and sometimes both of those emotions simultaneously, but I think it really did drive a lot of forward thinking and moved a lot of the technology and global communications within the industry forward in ways that never would have happened if the status quo had stayed there. So I have zero wish to go back. We have done that now. I don't want to see it ever again if we can possibly avoid it. But I do think it inspired greatness in a lot of ways as well. And we have yet to see the full fruits of that labor. But it's coming. Just as you're indicating, the innovation started there, will continue to seed. And I've run into you in a lot of different places around the world. We talked in Berlin. I've seen you in Vegas. I'm going to see you at Lyft, I think, up in Vancouver. So shout out to the Lyft folks. They've been kind enough to sponsor the whole season of the GCNC Worldview, so I need to make sure to thank them. But where are you seeing the most opportunity, not only for your current business ventures, but also where do you think the industry as a whole is seeing the most opportunity right now?
Great question. Well, you know what? For me, it's a very straightforward answer. I loved that Berlin trip, to be honest. The relationships that were built there, the excitement that people had towards this movement, if I can call it, of working together. I see Europe as a very big play in the years to come. And of course, Canada has sort of, it has plateaued. It has its own challenges with so many regulations. You hear different stories every single day, literally. I'm really looking forward and excited about US market. Once that federally legalizes, I see that as a very big opportunity for everybody, starting from businesses to people wanting to get into the industry. But at the same point in time, I'm looking at Germany really leading the European side of the industry, and setting that tone of success. And then Thailand is going to be extremely exciting. I mean, think about it, right? It's one of the most visited tourist places or countries in the world, and now you get cannabis there. It's brilliant. It's brilliant where the industry is going. That's really my take. I look forward to US, and I'm thinking Europe, definitely Germany is going to take a lead.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, it's certainly where the energy is right now, both in chatter and in capital investments. I think oftentimes the capital follows the chatter once people figure out the difference between hype and reality, and we've certainly seen an influx of that. And speaking of speaking of capital, it has been a challenging year across the industry and frankly across all industries to raise investment capital. I think we're starting to see some upticks in some areas, and I know to get from beta into version 2.0, you've been looking. What types of creative approaches and tactics have you been working with your team to develop to really have that capital investment conversation?
So, Chris, this is going to be my first rodeo, and I actually wrote something. I created a post on LinkedIn just about a week ago, and sharing my heart with the entire community. Hey, this is my first rodeo, and it's so different. I've always bootstrapped my companies, but for us, honestly, we're looking at different ways. Like rather than just going to your traditional VCs or a traditional industry, like if you go to a health tech VC, they are obviously going to invest in health tech or fintech. But we are looking, I'm actually in talks with a lot of people from the real estate, because real estate also became a bit stagnant here, especially in Canada. So these construction, companies, bigger developers who've got more surplus cash on them, they're figuring out ways how to dilute and invest into another industry. And for us, we are going to turn CanMar into more of a technology company. So that's very exciting for people. But while we are still going to be recruiting, so I want to make sure whoever is listening to our podcast, they know that if you're looking to recruit, we are always there.
Yeah.
So we are also trying to get very creative with, really bringing in people into a networking style of event and really pitching it there rather than picking up a phone or cold calling or going the traditional routes. I'll tell you, I'm not going to name the company, but there's a company out of Germany who's built a brilliant system. And what they do is they've got about 1,500 accredited investors from different parts of the world. And while I started another tech company as well, that's what COVID did to me, is a lot of thinking time. So, so while they accepted my application to take on for my other business with CanMar, they're like, okay, you're in cannabis, we can't touch you. I'm like, why wouldn't you? It's something like a pitch book, but pitch book doesn't really work for you. These guys, they're very small groups of amazing startup founders that are coming out who understand that, okay, this day and age, there's millions of startups in the world. What are the main challenges that any startup founder would find themselves in? And with these platforms, and I'll tell you, they're called Dash out of Germany, even though I wasn't going to mention, but brilliant guys. We did a virtual, 20 startup companies were invited, and there were about more than 100 VCs from all around the world just watching. It was a 3-minute elevator pitch. So we talked, everybody talked. So we're looking at these smaller companies building these amazing platforms for a very small amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Really getting people in a networking style, finding them, creating some theme around the event and having them come over and talk to them, because reaching people these days is a bit tough in person, but of course it's always there. So yeah, we're just finding other ways, some unorthodox ways, if I can say.
Yep. Yeah, I like that. And I think having done a lot of bootstrapping of companies over the years myself, I can relate to that a lot. And I think having that balance of bootstrapping the startup so that people can see you have skin in the game, that you are committed and know how to do that, and then going into these conversations as a way to increase velocity to market, increase velocity to scale, has been something that, at least when I've talked to some of my investor partners at the GCNC, is appealing. And you also hit another interesting point on the diversification that investors also need, right? Yeah. One of the largest, one of the more interesting conversations I've had over the last year and a half was with an investment group out of Texas. And of course, Texas, cannabis is bad. It's just illegal and terrible. But all of these folks who have made a lot of money over the years out of oil and gas, out of real estate, and those typical investment pathways in Texas are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into cannabis ventures, not in Texas, but in other parts of the country and around the world to diversify what have traditionally been a lot of their energy holdings. So everybody's having to get creative in how they diversify, how they raise funds, and it's been really interesting to watch. So, I always try and close out with a crystal ball question. So I'm gonna tease that a little bit, but just before we ask that one, I wanted to dig into one question I've got about the platform that you're building with CanMar, because communications platforms are so inherently complicated. People communicate in different ways. They have different needs. The populations are so diverse. And cannabis has its own nuances even within these topics. How is your team looking to address sort of the breadth of diversity that exists to serve that? Or are you instead taking a niche approach and starting with a couple and then sort of expanding as that happens?
So, our goal at CanMar is very simple. We don't want to overcomplicate what we are thinking. Our goal is to really connect the world of cannabis and psychedelics, period. That's really our mission statement too. Now, how we are going to do it is, of course, we want to build a very user-friendly, easy-to-use system. And the good thing is that the success tone has already been set by these major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. There are things that you do not have to reinvent. Our goal is to create a system, or a platform where people come and find different reasons why they need to be here. Somebody could be just simply looking for a job. Somebody could be looking for an investor. Somebody could be looking, like CanMar, to be invested in, or education. So our goal is to really build a very simple but a very smart and effective system that makes everyone's life easy, that you can find everything cannabis in one place. You do not have to go through 60 pages of Google because somebody did their SEO amazingly and paid a lot of money to be on the top ranking. But genuinely, again, there are goods and bads, right? So with any system. So we also are looking at a review system when these companies or retailers come up with a product, like Reddit, for example, and they've done a phenomenal job. I think all these successes, what they have done, one has to see what is really working, what's not working. When we launch our rather 2.0 version, we're looking at least having the bells and whistles like all these other great platforms out there. But at the same point in time, the value needs to be there. It's not about how many users you can bring to a system. It's about what value would Chris find if he comes to CanMar. What is Chris looking for? Because everybody could be coming in for a different reason. So simply, our goal is to connect the world, to get to the cannabis and psychedelics industry through CanMar. And of course, one thing I do want to mention is the crystal ball, as you mentioned. We're really looking forward to getting more involved with GCNC. It's been a great place, Chris. You have been amazing, Jill. And the people that we have met through the membership, that we got at GCNC. I mean, in the first meeting itself, that paid off for me because I built such amazing relationships. And it's not always about, can you do business? It's about long-term relationships. And I could feel that synergy with every founder, CEO. It's not about title, but the members that we get to meet on monthly basis during the GCNC networking virtual events. It's been amazing. That's going to be another crystal ball for us. That's really going to help us grow CanMar.
I appreciate that very much. We put a lot of work into it. We have common goals, KD, in that we want to champion communication and connectivity around the world and conversation. So as we both look into 2023 and want to help expand that conversation more, I would encourage people listening today to go check out CanMar, fill out a profile if you haven't or aren't already on that platform, and check that out. And of course, Katie, I also appreciate the fact that a lot of the way we bootstrap is by using our core business. And so the great news about the cannabis industry is job growth seems to continually be there. I'm looking forward to, more of that worldwide, and looking at what kind of crossover skill sets help amplify the industry overall. So, we're at time for this week's episode. And Katie, I just want to thank you again for hopping on. I am, like I said, looking forward to seeing you in mid-January at Lift. Thanks to our sponsor for the GCNC Worldview, Lift Events and Experiences. Hopefully you can join us all there. And if not, we'll also see you on the next episode of GCNC Worldview Podcast. Thanks so much, everybody. See you soon.